Today I am starting repair and restoration of a Williams Jungle Lord Pinball machine. Quick look at the obvious things. The plunger is missing, got some missing buttons. Playfield needs a serious clean up. Nothing too bad on this. It's got a couple of broken plastics, one there, one there. There's a crack in there. But I've got actually another playfield here which I can steal parts from to improve that. Let's have a look in the back box. Got all displays on the front, display driver board. CPU and driver look fairly clean. Soundboard and speech board look fairly clean. Power supply, well, that's going to need new capacitors on that for sure. Probably it's going to have wrong fuses as usual, like games always do, but some lovely Frankenstein wiring there. The last arcade operator by the look of it. Also, there's a fuse that's soldered in. That can't be a good sign. I need to have a look at that. Bridge rectifiers and capacitors look okay in the back. Mechanisms underneath all look fairly clean. I think I actually started cleaning this playfield a while ago, as I can see that the drop targets have all been cleaned up and they seem to be working quite nicely. Let's look at the transformer wire. Now unfortunately a moron with some wire snippers is having some fun with the transformer wiring. No idea why that's been cut and the terminal block put on. And this bit I just don't trust at all, because it looks like they've swapped the orientation of the wires around, so purple's over here when it should be here and orange is there instead of there. There's no way I'm plugging that in. I don't know what the hell sort of Frankenstein wiring that is. I've actually got, move out of the way, another transformer block here that's actually been previously tested, and with the exception of a GI wire being cut off, which I can replace easily enough, at least the rest of the connectors on this one are in pretty good condition. So I'll probably swap that transformer brick in first. I noticed some more fun that the idiot's been having with the wire snippers. This has all been cut and joined up with tape. Lovely. That's it. I'm definitely not using that transformer anyway. I've swapped the transformer blocks over, and the old mains flex is pretty crappy looking, so I'm just threading some new cable in. So I'm just going to cut off a nice decent length new mains flex and put a plug on it. Okay, I've fitted the better transformer board now. I've also soldered on a brand new mains lead. I just need to check that fuse out, make sure that's the right value. Another job I'm going to do is, these connectors are a bit dirty, so I'm going to have a go at cleaning them up with there's like a nylon brush attachment for the Dremel. I think the metal wheels will be too abrasive, but I'm going to try the nylon one, see if that does anything. Probably want to replace those eventually, but just to get it powered up, I'm just going to have a go at doing that. I've just removed a bunch of fuses that were the wrong value as usual. 3 of them there and 2 of them there. That 250 milliamp one there is okay, and that 20 amp one that's soldered in, although it's annoying that it's soldered in, is actually the correct value. I have no idea why people do not care about fuses and they will just put any random fuse that they find in the toolbox into a game, and you know, obviously it's a fire risk. And talking of fire risk, again, as usual with Williams games, the bridge rectifiers on the back box go straight to this power connector, which then goes down to the transformer. So if either of those two shorted out, that would potentially cause a wiring fire or a transformer fire. So I'm going to fit the inline fuse holders there in between those two bridge rectifiers and the AC inputs. Okay, I've added the safety fuses to the bridge rectifiers in the back box. Basically I've just cut one of the incoming AC wires, and that's now going via this fuse and then to the transformer plug. Same again with the other one, cut one of the AC inlet wires, and that's going via that fuse and to the transformer plug. I'm just checking power supply voltages on my multimeter, and so far they've all seemed to be fine. I was actually using my mobile phone to view the PDF, the wiring diagram in a minute. Once I've tested all the voltage okay, I'm going to start plugging the boards in one at a time, check they all work. Okay, all the boards are plugged in and all the connectors should be in the right place now, so I'm going to power up for its first smoke test. Oh, it's gone into diagnostics. Looks like it's actually booting. Let's just do a quick power flick. There we go. Booted up into track mode. Wasn't expecting that, to be honest. I can see there's a couple of issues with the scores and a few bulbs out. That's actually booted up. Now I'm just going to grab a ball and see if we can get the game to coin and start. Right, so the current status of the machine is that there's quite a few switches out, or a switch matrix problem. I need to check the matrix and see how that's laid out. Looks like there's a couple of strobe lines out for the displays. There's a problem with the lights, but it won't do it when I'm filming, where some of the lamps go super bright. I'm going to see if I can get that to show up. We need a new filter capacitor on that power supply. I measured it, there's a bit of ripple on there. Probably need a couple of new connectors, need a new battery holder installing remotely. There's no sound or speech, so I need to investigate that one, although you can hear speaker hum, so it sounds like the actual amplifier and the speaker itself are probably working. Right, I'm going to start testing some faults, see what I can fix. As we've seen with other Williams games of this sort of age, the light fixtures on the playfield are like all-in-one units with like 8 to 10, well sometimes less, bulb holders like riveted on, so you can't replace individual bulb sockets. So the same as I had to do with the blackout, I basically had to clean up the sockets using a wire brush attachment on my Dremel, and that seems to work very well actually, because they're all working very nice and bright. I think that's all the bulbs working now. I think a few of them are actually dirty. I need to take them out and replace them or clean them, but I think I'll probably replace them all actually. So I'm just going to finish that off now, but yeah, that's all working nicely. This is the underside of the playfield. It's actually quite a busy looking playfield for an early 80s game. There's quite a lot of stuff on there. We've also got this like raised playfield section at the back here. This is quite an interesting 5-bank drop target. It's got individual reset calls, so it can actually set and reset individually. So it can set up patterns of drop banks. It's quite an interesting feature that for an old game. I'm trying to get to the light bulbs here for this 5-bank, and the screws are just completely covered up by wiring loom. So I'm going to spend a fair bit of time trying to get that out and sort that out now. This is quite interesting. They didn't really plan an easy way of getting into playfields on old machines. As you can see, it's just got to sort of slide it along and stand it up on its back against the back box. There's no latching mechanisms like there are on the modern machines. On the switch matrix, I found some columns that were partially working. As the columns were partially working, it wasn't the CPU that was at fault, it was actually breaks in wires. So I found a break there, and a break here, that were causing columns to be incomplete as columns are chained across the playing field. So basically rejoining those wires, or resoldering those wires, has fixed the partial columns. So that's that one done. Right, I'm disassembling the playfield now so that I can take these metal parts off, because they look like they need a bit of a polish in the tumbler. So I'm going to just take all those off now. And these are the parts I'm going to put in the tumbler. These are small parts that are quite rusty. The things like the ramps, they're actually pretty good. I can just hand polish those with some polishing paste. They'll come up quite nice, but these bits need to go in probably for a few days in the tumbler. So I'll start that off now. This is a quick video showing the tumbler in action. It basically has a large vibration motor which causes the polishing media to sort of tumble over and polish the parts. You can see the parts probably moving around in there as well. So there you go, there's a piece. It's actually very effective, but it takes quite a long time. You've got to run it for several hours, even days, depending on how rusty the parts are. Right, I've had the parts in the tumbler and I've given them a bit of a Dremel polishing, and they've come up pretty nice. They're not perfect, but I can have another go at them later. It looks pretty good considering how rusty and horrible they were previously. I actually had to Dremel polish this ball because I don't have one this size. It's quite smooth, it'll do for now. It's got some little black markings on it still. But yeah, most of the parts came up pretty nice and shiny. So I'm going to refit these all to the machine now. And there's a few dead bulbs and missing bulbs and some horrible looking lamp sockets, so I'm going to clean all those lamp sockets up with the wire brush attachment on the Dremel and see if I can get all the lighting working. Same with the back box. Okay, currently cycling through the solenoid test and no solenoids are firing at all. Kind of indicates that there's probably a voltage missing. Oh, I can hear relays clicking, but yeah, none of the solenoids are firing at all, so we need to have a look at that. Okay, so I can coin the game up. Some credits on a start, and the game will reset all the drop targets and doesn't kick a ball out, but it thinks the game started. So I need to have a look why it's not kicking the ball out. I've actually done a solenoid test, and that kicker solenoid does work, so it's probably a switch making the game think the ball isn't there. I've cleaned up all the bulb sockets and replaced any dead bulbs, and all the GI lights are now working. I've also been going around doing a switch test right now. I've just been going through and cleaning all the switch contacts up to make sure all the switches are nice and working. I think the next thing, as I've got all the plastics off, I'm going to just hoover over the playfield and then start cleaning it with some alcohol and then some Novus. See if I can make this look nice. Okay, I've just polished up the coin door using various grades of Scotch-Brite pads. It certainly isn't perfect, but it is a massive improvement. Got rid of most of the corrosion. I could do with another couple of polishes up on it. It actually come up nearly new condition. It's actually quite a nice straight door. So yeah, worth carrying on with that and finishing it off nicely. I've also done this side rail, which has come up fantastically as well. Hopefully you can see the grain on it, to be honest, from this camera. And that's the one that isn't done. It's got a lot of little nicks and scratches in it. This one, it's got a nice original looking grain to it now. I know this is a worn playfield anyway, but I thought I'd try and make it a bit nicer. So this is what it was like on both sides originally. So you see all the black grain into the artwork, and then this is a part that I've now polished with melamine foam and alcohol, and you can see that's a lot clearer without all the black graining in. It takes quite a long time to do that actually when it gets to this stage, but so if you have a look, you can see them quite clearly a difference between the two. So I'm going to carry on doing that. But yeah, it's certainly worth the effort anyway. I've taken the apron off now to have a clean under here. It always amazes me how many pinballs I see where someone claims to have fully refurbed the machine, and you look under the apron and it's absolutely filthy. So I'm going to give all that a clean up and then see if I can polish this metal out and make that nice as well. Okay, I've now cleaned and waxed the playfield, and while I'm waiting for the wax to dry, I'm going to start cleaning up these plastics. As you can see, they're absolutely filthy and they've gone yellowed, well, at least on the clear areas anyway. So that was very dirty, as you can see. These are certainly not perfect plastics, but they'll do for now. I just need to clean up and make it look as nice as I can. Okay, the plastics have now been cleaned and polished, and they are looking significantly better now. As you can see, they came up pretty nice. Okay, the wax has dried and it's now been buffed, and I know the playfield's quite worn and needs replacing eventually, but that has come up very nice, with a very nice shiny finish to it. So I think we're ready to put the rubbers on and then the plastics. And the playfield is all reassembled now, all the plastics are clean and fitted, all new rubbers fitted, all bulbs replaced, and it's been polished, waxed, cleaned. It looks fairly good, considering it's a worn playfield. It's got a very nice glossy finish on it now, as you can see. Now it's to return to fixing the electrical items. Here's the System 7 CPU board and driver board from the Jungle Lord. One weak point on these boards is the connectors here that join the two boards together. So I'm basically going to desolder those and fit some new ones. Got some of those in a bag here, both the male and the female pins. So I'm just going to desolder them and then fit some new ones. I've desoldered the header pins now, and I've also removed the battery holder while I was at it, so I can fit a new remote battery holder. I'm just going to clean this up with some isopropyl alcohol and a brush, and then I will solder the new headers on. Right, so back to the display problems. Player 1 is missing the 10,000s and player 4 is missing the 100,000s. So the player 4 100,000s will be on this chip here, which is IC7, and player 1 10,000s will be on this chip here, which is IC13. As those two displays, well, the two digits that are missing don't share the same strobe, it's most likely it's actually going to be the digit driver chips that are bad. So I'm just going to desolder those and replace them. Okay, and all displays are now fully working. Okay, so on the soundboard we've fitted a new socket for the CPU, new socket for the EEPROM, new EEPROM, new TDA 2002 sound amp, and two new output capacitors there. Now if I hit the test button, there we go, the sounds are now working in standalone mode. I now need to get the speech board working with the soundboard. Now the speech board's got pretty crappy sockets, so I'm just going to go ahead and replace all of those. So it turned out that this speech board that I was working on actually has a Duff ribbon cable connector, so I've actually ripped that off. I need to get a new one and somehow work out how to crimp them on. I don't actually have the proper crimping tool. In the meantime, I actually managed to find another Jungle Lord speech board in the loft. That one seems to be working perfectly. So I'm going to go and install that in the machine. Well, this pinball is turning into a right pain in the bum. I just got the sound installed and working, and now it's giving me an error 6 game run failure. Oh, so that was a big fail. Flashing fuse. That wasn't actually what I was going to show you, but yeah, another fault. Excellent. That was the solenoid power fuse that just vaporised. That was actually a very good demonstration of why you don't power up a Williams, not one of these older style ones with the CPU and drive boards like this. You don't power those up when they're faulty, because basically it puts the PIAs into unknown states, which can switch all the solenoids on at the same time, things like that, and that's what results in the fuse explosion. So error 6 is IC14 ROM, which is there. I've taken that out, put it in my EEPROM programmer, and verified it as okay. So I'm going to go back to the bench. It's probably a buffer or the select line logic, something like that. So I'm going to go check that out. So I've been checking the data lines on EEPROM IC14, and data line 5 is shorted to 5 volts. The IC itself is good, so something else on the bus is shorted. So I'm just going to basically remove anything that's socketed from the bus and retest. I've removed all the EEPROMs and the 5101 RAM, and D5 on the bus is now operational, so one of these chips is bad. I'm just going to reinsert one at a time until the short reappears. As nothing is simple with this game at the moment, I put all the ROMs back in and the short reappeared. Now if I removed any one ROM or the RAM, the short disappeared. So what I found it actually was this 245 buffer was being overdriven by having all these chips in. As soon as you put them all in, this was shorting out. So I've replaced that, and let's just prove it's working. And you can see D5 is now active again. However, there seems to be another fault present, as I've now got error U, which isn't actually a real error code. Yeah, so there's something else funny with this. One thing I noticed is that the VMA signal is stuck high. If we look at the inputs, we've got pulsing and pulsing. So pulsing on both, static high on the output. So that 7408 is probably bad. The 7408 is replaced and the output now working. The board still is locked up though and not booting, so there's still further faults. I can't believe it's died so catastrophically. Okay, I fitted the repaired System 7 CPU board. I've also added a long fly lead so I can connect a battery holder. I haven't actually got a battery holder spare in a minute, but I'm going to go and buy one in a minute and fit that on. I've left that blown solenoid fuse out just in case it goes wrong again, so let's just power it up and see what happens. That's a good start. Let's go into diagnostics, so we'll just flick the power off and on. Oh, try again. No, it's not working. There we go. Tracked mode is working. I'm going to go grab a fuse for that solenoid fuse and see if the solenoids are working also. And because this game is a complete git, it looks like there's only one single column on the lamp drivers working. So PIA failure, I guess. I'll check that out on the driver board. And while I was testing the driver board on the bench, this CPU board has decided to die again because this PIA has all static high outputs. Just test a few random ones. So I'll split that PIA out. Right, I've replaced this 245 bus transceiver and this 6821 PIA, and the board is back to working again. I'm going to leave this on the bench for a couple of hours just to make sure it doesn't fail again, and then put it in the pin. Right, I'm back to looking at the lamp column drive problem on the driver board. I've basically got the Leon test ROM on, so it's pulsing all the PIA. I've tested the PIA, everything's fine on there. I'll just quickly show you a couple of the pins, so you can see everything's pulsing as it should be. These, basically, the tabs on these transistors should also be pulsing in time with that, as we can see demonstrated here. However, if we look at column 6, which is the fourth one down, 3, 4, that is shorted to ground, and the same with column 1, which I think is that one, is it? Yep. That one's also shorted to ground. So it looks like we've got a problem here with probably the pre-drive transistors. I was going to check those out. Okay, I've removed the column drive transistors for column 6 and column 1, and I've tested them on my meter and found these two to be leaky. I actually pulled another one out just to compare, and these are definitely faulty compared to the other one in the board, so I need to replace those. And the new transistors are fitted, and column 6 and column 1 are no longer shorted. Okay, I'm just testing out the driver board in the machine now that I've just repaired. We fire up, we've got, I'll switch off the power, don't want to short it out. Yeah, it's popping up the drop target reset straight away, so we've got a shorted transistor or driver IC or something like that, so I need to pull it out again and give it another test. Okay, so I fixed the shorted transistor, and the solenoids and lamps are all working on that board now. Now, a previous owner has hacked the GI lighting and basically soldered wires directly onto the board. Now, I'm not actually going to remove the soldered wires because it's actually way more reliable when they're soldered on than using these connectors. The connectors are absolutely guaranteed to burn in these older Williams games. Well, in fact, most games actually have the same problem. So what I'm going to do though is add an extra pair of wires, because these don't look like they can carry 20 amps. So I'm going to add some nice thick wires onto there, solder those on, and that should hopefully improve the reliability, and the GI should hopefully never need fixing again. Now, while I'm messing around with the power supply, I'm going to replace the 200 volt Zener diodes, which are there, with some 91 volt diodes, just to slightly reduce the display voltage and actually make the displays last longer. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, I've added the additional GI wiring, and I've replaced the Zener diodes on the high voltage section of the power supply. And if we look at the displays, it's not really any difference in terms of brightness, so if it's going to save the life of the display, it's certainly worth doing. Now, the power connector for the soundboard's looking pretty crappy. It's looking a bit burnt and it's not making very good contact, and it's only got 3 wires. Now, if we look at the soundboard, we'll see there's actually 2 pads for each of those wires, so we could actually use two here, two here, and two here. So what I'm going to do is put a new connector on and actually connect up basically pairs of wires, so it's got better contact, spreading the voltage across the pins. Okay, the sound speech board are back in the game with the sound speech board joined together by soldered wires to improve the reliability. Now if we just hit the test switch up here.
Jungle Lord, fight Tiger, Stampede, Double, you win again, beat.
Okay, so all the sounds are now fully working and there's no distortion. Previously with the connectors it was crackly and distorted due to the poor contact. Unfortunately the white painted backing on the Jungle Lord glass has started to flake off in some parts. So to save it before the artwork starts to get damaged, I've got some Krylon triple thick, which I'm basically going to seal the artwork with, and then we can touch up hopefully some of these areas. I don't want to go too crazy because it looks a bit rubbish if you put loads of paint on these, but you should be able to just put a protective layer on there and save most of it. So what I'm going to do first of all is just mask off the windows with some electrical tape, just so I don't get loads of overspray on them, and I'm going to take it outside and give it a spray with this. And there's one nice clean back glass installed in the game. At a later date I'm going to touch up the little bits where the paint has flaked around the Tiger. As you can see, I need to adjust the internal door as the displays are not lining up correctly at the minute. That's not too bad a job to do, so I'll go and do that.